Welcome to Juggling Interviews. This episode is brought to you by XavJuggles, the IJ's official online publication, where you can find the latest juggling news, articles, videos, and podcasts, just like this one. If you want to check that out, you can head over to their website at juggle.org/xjuggle, or with the link in the description. This episode is also sponsored by Play Juggling. On their website, you can find high-quality props like balls, clubs, rings, diablos, poise, fire equipments, flower sticks, glow props, and tons more. Head over to playjuggling.com and use my code XavJuggles, XavJuggles10, to get 10% off your next purchase. It's a great way to support me, so thank you a lot, Play Juggling. Now let's get to the episode. So hello guys, welcome back to Juggling Interviews. Today I'm super happy to receive my friend Joe Fisher. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Man, it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's great to see you again.
Yeah, and also a fun fact, we wanted to do this episode in real life as we met in Turbo this year in Quebec. And just because of how tired we are at festivals and everything, unfortunately we couldn't really get to it, but I'm super glad we can postpone this to today and have this conversation.
Yeah, I might have been a little bit ambitious. I was like, yeah, let's do a podcast interview together, but let's do it on the last day of the festival, maybe in the morning of the last day. And then of course the last day rolls around and you're just dead.
Yeah. No, either we were gonna do it after a big show and late the previous night or the next morning, but either of those would have been too late or too, yeah. Anyways, timing lead us to here right now.
And now here we are.
Hell yeah, I'm super happy. Yeah, let's get to the main questions, the ones I always ask to the guest, and I'm super curious to get to know this about you. First, how did you get first introduced to juggling, and then how did you learn juggling?
It sort of came in two parts. One is that my dad taught me to juggle three balls when I was about 6. And he wasn't a juggler by any means, but he just knew how to juggle 3. So he taught me that. And I got really into learning that right away. But also around the same time, I'm from a very small town in Tasmania, which is part of Australia. And in that town, there was a club called Slipstream Circus that kids could go to after school to learn circus stuff. So around the time that my dad taught me to juggle 3, my older sister, who's a hula hooper now still, started going and taking classes at this youth circus thing. And I was like, well, hang on a second, I want to be a part of that. So after about a year, I signed up and started taking classes there too. So juggling was the first thing that started me on my circus journey. And I went to this thing after school for 12 years until I was 18, this youth circus. And I tried all sorts of other things, but the whole time, all the way through, I was juggling, more than anything else. I did a bunch of other disciplines, but juggling was always the one I came back to. So, yeah, it was just kind of crazy coincidence that after my dad taught it to me, it turned out that we had one of Australia's biggest youth circuses, in our backyard in this really small town. It was really fortunate, I think.
And even if circus runs in the family, like you said, your sister did hula hoops. Do you know how she got introduced to it? Was it by the parents, or was it just a hobby that naturally picked up?
Well, that was just because of the youth circus. She started taking
Okay,
classes
yeah.
at Slipstream, and she found hula hoops pretty early in the same way that I found juggling. And so both of us just picked these particular disciplines and followed them all the way through. And so neither of our parents are circus performers at all, or at the time they didn't really know anything about that world. So I think they're both a little bit freaked out that we're professional circus performers now. But they've been cool about it. They're cool people.
I think it's cool. I think I don't know, it's just natural circus talents and performing came in the family without even knowing from now on. You two are the generation that brings performing and circus arts to the family.
Totally.
And was the rest of your family a fan of circus arts, or were they going to Cirque du Soleil or all the big shows in the city, or?
Well, they certainly were after we both got really into it. My parents they didn't really know anything at all about circus prior to that, other than the fact that my dad could juggle 3 balls. But we got lucky. I don't think everyone's parents would be supportive like this, but they would take us if there was ever a circus passing through any part of our state, or when Cirque du Soleil would come to Melbourne, which is an hour flight away. they would take us to the city to go see Cirque du Soleil, and there was a big festival. Australia's National Circus Festival was held in Tasmania, in another crazy coincidence, about 2 hours from where we lived every couple of years. So pretty early into my juggling, I started going to that festival, which was like a 10-day camping
Wow.
and performance and training experience with thousands of people from around Australia would come. So from when I was like 9 or 10, I was exposed to the entire Australian circus scene. So that also was really, really valuable, I think.
Is it still
And
running?
that I think has made.
Is that festival still running today?
No, the last one in Tasmania was 2013.
Mm.
And I think spiritually the mantle's been kind of picked up. There's a big circus festival in Western Australia that happens every year. And there's one in Mullumbimby in New South Wales called the National Circus Festival that happens every couple of years. And they have sort of picked up a lot of that community and
Mm.
the function that festival served. But no, the last time I went to 4 or 5 of them, I think, but the last time the Tasmanian Circus Festival ran was 2013. But that was an amazing place. Like in the Tasmanian wilderness, no phone reception, everyone is camping. It's just like workshops all day, every day. All these professionals from around the country come. That was a really cool place to grow up.
Oh yeah. And during maybe at school or when you were getting introduced to maybe like juggling literature and the videos and getting introduced to the
Mm.
online world, did you have any like any inspiration growing up? Did you have any of like the WJF as inspirations? All these kind of early
Yeah,
on.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so interesting, and I'd be interested to hear what your journey was like online, actually, because you're a bit younger than me, and so we probably come from like different generations of the online world. But like my experience was, we didn't have the internet at my house until I was about 10 or 11 or 12, probably. And then we didn't have internet that was fast enough to do anything with until I was about 17. So a lot of my juggling video watching was like I would watch on YouTube at school or like use a YouTube downloader and just download as much as I could during the day and then take it home to watch. That added a real ritual to watching juggling videos, I think, and made these things feel so sacred. And especially it was like Wes would put out a new video, some new hour-long video. I remember he came out with Plaid, and I was trying to
Mm.
download that for like a week because it was an hour long, so it's like a gigabyte. Where the hell am I going to download a gigabyte? It's crazy. So I had to go to like my dad's work and try 3 times to download this gigabyte video, and then I like took it home, had it on my iPod Touch, and I watched it. Like I stayed up all night watching it. But definitely, like I went through this journey of like I discovered juggling YouTube in around 2008 or so,
Mm.
and so I was looking a lot on like Ministry of Manipulation was a big blog then. That's how I got introduced to a lot of jugglers and juggling videos. And then I had my WJF phase, which I think everyone needs to have at some point, or at least back then they did. And I got all the Jason Garfield DVDs and the Anthony Gatto DVDs. Ivan Purcell had an instruction series. I got all of those and got really into sport juggling, and I thought that was super cool. And I remember very clearly around when I was 12 or 13, I found all of Wes Peden's stuff and then all of his collaborators and Pat and Tony and Jay. And I started watching all of those videos. And that really was like a huge light bulb moment for me, realizing that juggling could be something other than pure technique and an exhibition of pure skill. And that really blew my mind.
Mm.
So I was like super on the West train for years. And he was like writing his blog then, and everyone was putting out videos all the time in that little scene around Stockholm and stuff. So that was a really exciting time to be a juggler on the internet, I think.
Yeah, and I bet that 1 gigabyte of video must have been hype to watch. The first time you launch it, as soon as you have it
Dude,
downloaded, it must be like legendary.
oh my God. I can still remember like, yeah, I think Plaid opened with a bunch of three ball juggling and a Radiohead song or something. And I still remember watching that just like ascending to the heavens, being so excited.
Oh,
It was
because
awesome.
I ended up buying the USB key with all the videos from Wes, um,
Oh, cool.
and I discovered the old classics, but very later on. Like I just knew the ones that were free on YouTube. Because
Mm,
naturally, my generation, I'm barely 20. At 20-year-old, YouTube was around since I'm born. When you think about it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you were getting into juggling and juggling videos, was it all, were you looking at stuff on YouTube or were you just straight to Instagram?
I started on YouTube. I didn't see any Instagram clips. I remember it's kind of foggy because it's the kind of stuff that I watched one video of and then I watch like 10 videos in a row because I get like interested by a new hobby. So I have like that
Mm,
phase with every single thing that I tried in life. But I think the first video I've seen was like the top 40 of 2019. I remember like pretty
mhm,
vividly seeing like Lisa Van Bracco, seeing like some of these like artistic juggling with three clubs, and I'm like, oh, like that just like that just blew my mind. I saw Wes at was I think he was first place or second place. Like, to,
mm.
I was wondering like, okay, these are like the top guys. So I went to like look up some of the channels, and I saw I think I saw Ice Cream as the first like
Mm,
long length juggling video, and that was like probably that's probably the life
cool.
changing moment that made me go into juggling.
Oh, just that everyone must have that experience of like it's kind of a dual prong of at one point you discover juggling and you realize that a community exists for this thing that you like doing, and then there's got to be that everyone has that second moment of like, well, not only is there a community, there are parts of this community that really speak to me, and I think that's like everyone remembers that moment when they find the video or they see the performance that is juggling that they can relate to on a way more personal level than anything else you've seen before it. And that is like crazy. Everyone remembers that moment, I think.
And also, you naturally drift into your own little niche. Like I remember the first year was like getting to do three balls, and I was trying a lot of the three ball stuff. I like the aesthetic of three balls. Every pattern seemed like so like straight and structured, so simple, straightforward. Like the shower, the box, these look like
Mm,
super nice to learn. So I was learning with Taylor tries. Taylor Glenn. That's like
yeah.
I think it's the easiest, straightforward, like the most straightforward way to learn nowadays. Like even if there's someone teaching you in real life, I think like all the visuals she made and like everything was like so clear, so it was easier to learn. So
Mm,
as soon as I picked up on that, I then looked up like what people do with three balls, and I joined the juggling Discord server. Um, and I saw like I saw Mike Moore juggling. I saw like they introduced me
cool.
to Murakami doing the three ball stuff, and like I really fell in love with the Japanese style of juggling with three balls, like super fast, quick, like by the hand kind of stuff.
Totally.
They call it Timoto juggling, and
Mm,
oh, that was like that was my niche. I don't know why I found like that place being the most aesthetic. Like also the tricks are so explosive. Like it's so like the throws are real fast. There's like many inputs in 1 second. Like there's some high lows and they do like so many quick movements at the same time. So I
totally.
yeah, I started learning that, but unfortunately at that point there was no YouTube tutorial to learn these hard tricks. So I was just looking at like Mike Moore videos and Murakami's videos and try to teach
Kind of
myself to
slow
do the
down.
tricks. Yeah, it's so hard to
Yeah.
solve too. Like it's weird
Dude,
techniques with like weird slams and stuff, so it takes like minutes and minutes
I got
to
in the habit. I had all these videos downloaded because of our crappy internet. So I got in the habit of like, I'd open it up in QuickTime and then you can press the full stop and the comma keys to move forward and backward by a frame at a time. So there's so many tricks and like sequences and stuff. I would just move through one frame at a time and be like up against the monitor, like, what the hell is he doing?
yeah. Oh, I relate to that so much. And then you're like, wait, no,
Yeah.
wait, he does the throw here, so he's starting crossed arm, but then wait, okay, that one goes here, and then you get like lost in trying to
Yeah.
understand it yourself. It's terrible, but I think every juggler has to go through that. But then also, I think
Yeah.
you can somewhat develop a skill of like recognizing patterns because you've learned so many like by just zooming in and you notice some throw patterns and that kind of stuff. So
Mm,
you get to know and recognize the juggling patterns much easier when you see them like on the first go.
mm.
I think that could be fun to do a challenge where you could see a trick for like 10 seconds and try to do it to just like practice like
Yeah.
recognizing patterns real quickly.
Well, I'd also try to get the trick. And also, I think that would be interesting because if someone were to like imitate the trick, if you see it for 10 seconds and then you try and do it, you would see, I think, in different people what stands out about the trick to them.
Yeah.
And in everyone's version of the trick, I think some people would be closer to like getting the technicality of the handing and the throw order and stuff correct. Whereas other people might do something that looks a lot more like the original trick, but is just a cascade or something with some floopy arms.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I always find that interesting, like what resonates about a trick to people.
And also it's kind of interesting to see how different tricks, I mean, no, the same tricks can be done differently by different jugglers. Like
Mm,
there's like many of the crossed arm stuff that like, or anytime there's a high low, a lot of people do like very high highs to do like have a lot of time to do lows. But like I got introduced to very quick ones, like very small throws and like super fast lows under it. So I think some styles work really well with like super lofty throws and have a lot of time to do the inputs. And there's some that like
mm,
on purpose make them super tighter and like super fast for no particular reason than the aesthetic or like the feel of the trick. Because you could technically do a
mm,
box like incredibly slow with like super wide arms and like get your throws super high, but you can also do it like super fast, like incredibly fast. And
100%.
it's different aesthetics. It's
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Also, it's different niches. I feel like a box could
yeah,
also
yeah.
look like contemporary juggling. Like if you do it super lofty and depends how your body moves with it. But it could also look like the most technical three ball thing if you do like super like textbook, like I don't know.
Totally.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
always fun.
I think maybe. I mean, I don't know enough about juggling history to understand fully if this existed before then, but I think maybe like the rise of WJF and the popularization of like sport juggling in inverted commas, or at least that generation of that style of juggling, maybe started to introduce the idea that there is a single technically correct way
Mm,
to do certain juggling tricks and patterns, and not a single technically correct way as in you can't do it any other way, but I think that started to popularize this idea of like there is a biomechanically path of least resistance way
mm,
to juggle five clubs or to do a pirouette or all of these things. And I think to their credit, like Jason and Vova and whoever were really like they were treating it like a sport and trying to figure out like, okay, if you like set your shoulders back and you keep your elbows tight, what is the most efficient way to juggle all of these patterns? And I think that's definitely a really valuable thing, especially for technical juggling. But I think it's equally important to remember that, like, we don't necessarily have to be traveling the path of least resistance all the time in our technique.
mm,
I think that's a useful thing to learn, and it's good to understand how your body works and how to make those movements happen most efficiently, just for your own practice. But then once you can do that, and once you feel comfortable with the technique, then you start on a whole second journey of like, okay, well, now that I can do a box or I can juggle five clubs, what do I actually want it to look and feel like to someone who
mm.
watches it? And then that's the whole, now you're on your artistic practice. And I think like, I mean, I just remember getting into, I mean, this is irrelevant. This is years ago, but I was like in a bit of an argument with like an old juggling partner because he was like, man, you do your 3-up pirouettes too high in your 5 club part of your routine. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to do them low. I just can't do a 5 club 5-up on stage. And I want my 3-up to feel like a 5-up. I want it to feel big and take up a lot of space. And I want my pirouette to feel relaxed. And he was just like, giving me a lot of stick because I was like throwing these quads and turning. And the thing was super messy, I'm sure. But I remember that was like a pretty key moment in thinking about like, no, I want to make a decision that my 5-club 3-up pirouette should be too high because I want it to feel big and impressive. And I just can't do a 5-up on stage yet. So I need to amplify this one a little bit.
Actually, I think it's pretty funny. I remember we talked about that in Turbo. We are talking about the technique of pirouettes, and
Mm,
I was telling you that my pirouettes are the ones, the same ones Kaito does. And funny enough,
mhm,
you said like if you want it to be easier, because basically me and Kaito spin with the opposite side of the last throw. So if you do like a 7-up, your last throw is gonna be
mm,
like to the right, but you spin to the left.
mm.
So then the oh wait no actually no you spin towards the same throw, because then you end up like having to travel a bit further after the pirouette to catch the first one, instead of like if
Totally.
you throw the first one towards the other side, then you'll catch it as soon as you're done with the pirouette. As soon as you come
Yeah.
in the pirouette, you have the first prop in your hand. So basically I just learned it the wrong way. And
I,
I think it's funny. You say
I took the Doug of it. I mean, we talked about this at Turbo, but like I juggle with, I work quite a bit with Doug Sayers, who obviously is like one of the cleanest, most beautifully technical jugglers of all time. and he has so much to say and such a deep understanding of technique. And he was watching me try to train, like pirouettes with balls or something. And he told me that, and it was the first time I'd ever come across this idea 3 or 4 years ago that like if you change the hand that you start with, you can basically get like a quarter less rotation in your pirouette before you have
Mm-hmm.
to start catching, and it gives you a lot more time. And I had just never come across that. And he was like, "Yeah, man, your pirouettes will be so much easier if you just start with your left, because then you don't have to spin as much." And I tried it a bunch of times, but it's like, yeah, Doug, but my pirouettes might be technically easier if I start with my left, but then they get harder because I have to start with my left.
Yeah, that's
And
the
I've never
thing.
done that before in my life. And I've got to like rewire my entire brain to throw with my left hand first. And I don't know, I'm just too lazy. I'm not on the technical grind enough to get the long-term gains. So I still do my pirouettes wrong, just like you.
Yeah, but even when you think about it, doing them wrong, still Kaito did the 7 up 720 with 7 clubs, doing it the wrong way. When you think about it. When
He'd be
you,
getting a 1080 if he was starting with his left, I tell you what.
so but I think to an extent, yeah, it just depends. I think the first throw is really the challenge. Like there's I think the
Mm,
biggest friction part of doing it differently is the first throw, and then getting to the last throw too. You tend to you have a way of doing it when you do it with the with your with your dominant hand. Is it always the dominant hand? I don't know, maybe I'm just mixing them up. But anyways, if you throw towards where you're gonna spin, that's often more
mm,
traveling, but you tend to throw a bit higher. But then if you do it
mm,
lower, starting by the left, you have to adapt the left one, and also have to adapt the first throw because it's not the same one as if you did with your previous hand.
totally.
So basically, it's almost the same skill level when you think about it. But if I would recommend to someone starting out to start with the left as soon as possible, just because I had like
Yeah.
5 years of experience just throwing with the right one, like with my right hand
Yeah.
always.
Well, and also like it just gives you more options in general. Like
Yeah.
for all of this, I struggle to start a good pirouette with my left hand. And then I think even aside from the technical debt that accrues, I also can't really pirouette in the opposite direction. I can't pirouette pivoting on my right, turning towards my right. I find that really awkward. And both of those things just limit my vocabulary technically and creatively. And so like I don't think it's going to completely change the vibe of my routine if half of my pirouettes were in one direction and half of my pirouettes were in the other. But I think it would certainly be interesting, and it would just open up way more avenues for me mid sequence if I had an option of which way I could turn. I mean, this is how undeveloped we are as jugglers with our movement. It took me 15 years to even think about the fact, like, oh, maybe I should learn to turn in the other direction. Imagine if you were a dancer and you danced for 15 years and you never thought about using the choreographic tool of, like, I should spin in the other direction. It's crazy.
That's
We're
funny.
so, like, I think juggling is moving so far in a bunch of ways, but I think also, like, I mean, also, this is reflective of my own development in juggling too. Like, I think we just have so far to go. We're at the beginning of such an exciting thing when it comes to juggling as a movement, as a choreographic language.
hmm And also, that's why I get so flabbergasted seeing like Antoine Jacot's juggling, Antoine Juggler on
Mm,
Instagram. Um,
mm.
he's like incredibly wide, and like even Léonard Poupeau,
Oh yeah.
with balls, like you're like they unlocked like the movement part. Like they get all the throws that we're doing, but they're doing it like moving around, and they seem like 10 times more comfortable than anyone else doing it. So you're like,
Oh man, it's unreal.
yeah, you have to think. Yeah, I think juggling has like still because we're exploring a lot of the technical, and we're trying to just push what we already have in technical skills and try to make it like 10 times
Mm,
bigger. We tend to like just see in one direction, and we forget to like see that, oh, maybe I could do 5 clubs but moving around and like exploring 3D space, and that's also technical. That's
totally.
also a new world to explore.
Yeah, I mean, we carry the artistic, for better and for worse. We carry the artistic debt of what came before us. So juggling began as, I mean, again, I don't know that much about the history of juggling, but I think we carry a lot about its history as a variety discipline and a vaudeville discipline, and more recently a circus discipline. And all of these things have such huge effects on how we train and perform our juggling now as practitioners. I think, like, even the fact that when I pick up 5 clubs and I'm going to juggle 5 clubs, I'm going to do a cascade. Like, just because people always do cascades with 5 clubs, and I'm sure like that is biomechanically probably the most efficient way to keep 5 objects in motion like that, because you're like, minimizing the amount of dead time in your hands and whatever. Like if you do a shower, it's a lot less efficient. But I don't know, like I just find all of that so interesting. There are so many defaults that it takes us a long time to question in how we practice and perform our juggling that are holdovers from where juggling came from. And I think that's a lot of that is what makes it so beautiful and unique as a discipline, because we're not just starting from zero principles. It has an opinionated culture behind it. But I think it's always good to be conscious of those defaults and question them as much as possible and see where else you can go.
But also, if you think about it, you say it's a, and I think it probably is the easiest way biomechanically to keep 5 objects in the air. But it's like if you start, if you want to go for a run, or if you want to start doing acrobatics, like if you want to start doing flips and stuff, you don't do the hardest one first. So I think it's also just a
Mm,
way of subconsciously warming up, doing the easiest thing first.
mm,
Like if you don't start skating by like just putting the skate down, kickflip, and then you go into rolling. You like just
mm.
get some, I don't know, get some acceleration, and then you start it. Like you get warmed up to the prop and to the. So I think that's also
No,
why.
totally.
But yeah, I think it could be funny as a challenge. Like everyone watching this video, next training session, try take any of your props, try a different trick than you usually start with. Like just start with the five
Yeah.
up and then start doing whatever. I think.
But I mean, I think we're seeing interestingly now, like in the current generation of six club juggling, for example,
Mm,
like 7-5. Wait, it is 7-5, right? Yes, that's the side swap. 7-5 is so rapidly becoming the default way to juggle six clubs.
mm,
And I think that was 7-5 was a trick 10 or 15 years ago. And to me, it still registers as a trick. But
mm-hmm.
that's just a base pattern now. And people have kind of figured out that for a bunch of reasons, that's either more efficient or can be cross trained more easily with 5 and 7 or whatever it is. Um, and that's a default that we're seeing questioned
Yeah, that's yeah.
in at least the world of like hyper technical juggling to great effect. I think like people are doing crazy stuff with six clubs now, and a lot of it is because of
That's
like
seven
the
five.
rise of
Yeah,
7-5 as a base pattern. And it's like, what the hell? Like juggling again, like this is just another reflection of how young juggling is. That it's like, hang on, we could just cross them both. People realized you could do that before, but that was never realized as a technical advantage, I would say, until the last few years. And I just find that so fascinating. Like everyone used to juggle their 5 clubs in triples. You look at all the old IJA videos and everyone's running 5 in triples. And now like doubles is taking over. Everyone used to do their 4 clubs in doubles. Now so many people do it in singles. Like even just on the most technical level, these things evolve over time. And I find that so interesting.
I think it's also the rise of popularity of like the milestones. I think also with social media and posting on
Mm,
YouTube and everything, uh, doing 3 to 4 arguably is way easier than going to 4 to 5, but like a
mm,
lot easier. That's the thing. So I think people tend to like practice a lot of the crossing throws, like even without noticing. And going from 5 to 6 is a challenge, but from 6 to 7 is another grind. So that's the thing. I think people get so used to like practicing the crossing throws that once they get to 6,
mm,
they already know how to do a crossing 5 pretty good. I mean,
mm.
arguably okay, and then they can
Yeah.
try to throw some sevens, um,
Yeah.
because you don't
And fountain
notice.
throws are just kind of annoying.
But I don't know. Maybe my
Like fountain throws, they're like so collision prone and they're a bit awkward. You've got to get around each ball in the air. They're just kind of annoying to do,
but that's the
which is
thing.
perhaps controversial to say.
Also, it's maybe because I feel it's more of a trend in clubs than any other props, because rings are still doing straight sixes like the usual ways.
That's true.
It's not
You
much
have
of a
less
base
collision
pattern.
risk in your fountain throws.
And I think it's funny. You naturally see like the bigger the prop, the more 7-5 prone it is, or 9-7 if you do 8. Because even in rings, you still do 8, but now in balls, since there's so many props in the air, even
Mm,
if it's smaller than a club, there's still like the rise of 7-5s, 9-7s for doing 8 balls and like wimpies even.
mm,
Because the wimpy is like even easier way for the body to do like 9-7s. Um, I think it's so funny. Like it like different patterns evolve in different ways, and I used to see 8 balls just as eights, like all the previous clips and all the
yeah.
world records, and like Anthony Gatto would always do them with the just normal eights. but now it's like wimpies are
Yeah.
on the rise. And I know it's a bit controversial. Some of y'all really don't like the wimpies for official record runs.
Yeah.
Um, I think
It only
it's
look
a
good if you can
it's a privilege to do both if you want. You have the choice to do both.
yeah, wimpies only look good if you can no clip your balls through each other. That's the hill I'll die on. As soon as you get balls that can move
No
through one
clip.
another, then or perfectly bounce them off each other at the peak,
Yeah, or you do
I'll
them
accept
like,
those
oh,
wimpies.
that's odd. But if you do like one in front and one in the back, but you have to like always do that kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that
You
Hovar
have
would
to
do.
alternate on every pair of throws. Yeah, I'll accept those wimpies. I'm fine with those. You're
Oh,
allowed to do those ones.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. I'm really curious. How was your practice sessions looking like when you first started, like in your first like 5 years of juggling, when you get introduced to all the big tricks and you really get your
Mm,
routines settled down and you get to have your own patterns and your own routines. How did it look like?
mm. Oh man, I'm the worst person to ask for this. I have never had any kind of discipline in my practice sessions. It I'll talk when I'm younger to begin with. Like I just started so young, and I think like I wasn't I wasn't really conscious about my juggling really in any way until I was about 11 or 12, I think. So that's already like the first 5 years of the development of my juggling was, I mean, I was a child. So it was just, I just did what was fun. And I would see I got the Jason Garfield DVD. It was like Etudes for Juggling or something when I was maybe 11. And that was a very like disciplined set of like fundamental exercises to improve your technique. So I did that whole DVD, and that was maybe the first time that there was any kind of structure in my training because I was following the exercises that he laid down. But otherwise, like my memory of those early years is like I was just a kid. I was just having fun. So I would just fixate on whatever trick or new prop or something that I was learning. I would try and learn. I had all the Cirque du Soleil DVDs and stuff, so I would try and emulate what I was seeing on those. Um, if I had a gig coming up, I would just practice the routine over and over and over
Mm,
again. Um, but there was no structure or routine in my training at all. And to be honest, there kind of has never been since. My training sessions only really get the suggestion of structure if I really have some stuff that I need to get done. If I really am like I've got a gig coming up and I need to rehearse the routine, or if I know I have some stuff that I need to make, or if I'm maybe making a video or something, or I'm trying to generate tricks for a project, then maybe I go in with a notebook and I have a plan of like how long I want to spend on different parts of my training. But honestly, man, it's pretty freeform. And it always is just following whatever my interest is at the time. The last 5, 6 years, I would say, like I always do a pretty big chunk of club juggling. Like I do 3, 5, and 7 at the start of my training session always. But even that, it's not for set amount of reps or set amount of
mm,
times or whatever. I just do a lot of club juggling in my professional life. So I have this kind of feeling
yeah.
that I should try to do about half an hour of club juggling every time I train just to stay fluent. Um, but yeah, I've never had much discipline or routine, much to the chagrin of my various juggling partners.
I asked these questions to like all the guests mostly, and it's funny enough. I have the exact same thing where I never structure. I just go off by feeling, and I just go
Mm,
by energy level. Like if you start and you warm up. Like I usually juggle to music. Like it's I don't know if it's my it's my attention span, but like I have a hard
mm.
time like doing
Oh, same.
very long practice sessions without music. So I
Mm,
just put on music and usually it goes with the vibe. Like I start with chill music, I do some warm ups and whatever just for fun and like we said earlier, like if you want to do 5 club tricks, you start with 5 clubs just to get used to the normal like the usual throws. So then if the music like I tend to put on like hype up music and then you do some bigger tricks, but then energy levels down so you try more creative little stuff that you wanted to try out. Then I just flow with it.
mm.
And I think it's fun to see like you're such a high performing juggler and you get so many like technical tricks down that way you would think that like all of the technical jugglers have like a set down practice on the notebook and they always like time their reps or they do whatever, but it's always fun to see that. It's always fun to see that any ways you want to get to juggling, as long as you put the hours and you do the training
Mm.
frequently, you can get to any level. Like, cause you're not the first one that I've seen that is a super high performing juggler that just go off with the feeling and practice what's up to the vibe of the day. Like sometimes you would just never touch
Mm.
one prop. I bet. Like, do you always do all three props during your sessions?
No, not at all. Not at all. I do like clubs. Clubs are what I train the most. Um, I sometimes do some ball juggling as a warm up. I haven't really done any serious ball juggling for years. I think the last time I made something with balls that I was really like actually working on was probably 5 or 6 years ago. So balls I tend to treat generally as a warm up, and I just work on my technique with those for fun. Most of my training is clubs and rings, and it just depends on what work I have coming up or what I'm trying to make dictates what I do. And I think there's like I'm not structured in my practice, but I think there's a distinction to draw. I mean, you would understand this too. Like following your interest doesn't necessarily mean changing what you're doing every 2 minutes.
Mm,
It means that sometimes I go in and I work on 7 clubs for like 2 hours straight because I'm just really hyper fixated on that for that day. And I think there's definitely like you need to have some level of discipline in understanding that if you just try a trick a couple of times, then obviously you're not going to get much better at it. You have to put in the process of practicing. But yeah, I'm not structured. I don't go in with too much of a plan.
mm,
And it's a double-edged sword because I think my technical juggling maybe has the potential to have been a lot more developed by this point. I think I have a lot of blind spots in my technique. Like you should see my back crosses with clubs. They're like embarrassing. And there are a lot of areas of my juggling where I think I maybe could have progressed more if I were more disciplined and structured in how I practiced. But then also, if I treated juggling that way, I don't know if I would still be juggling now because with all parts of my life, not just with juggling, I tend to follow things by interest, for better or for worse. I'm not the most disciplined learner of things, but I think interest can propel you really far. And so I've always been quite deliberate about just following my interest in juggling and allowing that interest to push me into doing an 8 hour training session. Like if I get really excited about a particular set of tricks with 5 clubs or whatever, I'll train, like I'll do these massive days, especially back in the day when I was like 19, 20, 21, all summer. Like I would just be doing these huge days generating tricks. And I think interest can propel you to those highs. And I've just tried to be kind with myself on like the fact that my interest has not propelled me to get any good at club back
yeah,
crosses. And
yeah.
it's like, okay, I've just got to treat that as like that's the highs and lows that this style of training comes with, I guess. Because I think if I had turned juggling into a chore for myself and I had tried to push myself to be like, okay, you're going to go in and you're going to do your 3 hours and you're going to do all these tricks, even though you don't necessarily feel excited about working on them today, you have to, because that's going to make your technique better. I think if I had treated juggling like that, I don't know if I would still love it or if I would still be juggling now or still training at least.
Mm.
Um, so it's a double-edged sword. You've got to keep it fun for yourself.
But also,
And some people get a lot of fulfillment through discipline and structure, and I just don't think I do. That kind of gamification has never been super exciting for my brain.
usually even in the year, like you're not always like on a 7 out of 10 interest in juggling. Like it usually goes
Mm,
by. Like even with the seasons, like right now the sun's coming out here and in Canada, horrible.
mm.
The juggling in the snow is not something I'd recommend. So now
Yeah,
it's like you're more propelled to go out and like do some training more often and like you get your motivation up a little bit. And
totally. I mean, this is. I was talking to a friend about this not too long ago. I think something that's really key if you want to take juggling seriously, and especially if you want to be a professional, and if you want juggling to be a huge part of your life, you need to engage pretty early with dividing juggling into a set of different activities. And that is how you can maintain your obsessions with juggling in the long run.
mhm,
Because so for example, like I'm in Vegas now. I've lived mostly here for 4 or 5 years. And I'm here about 8 or 9 months out of every year. And when I'm here, I'm doing like 7 to 10 shows a week, almost always with the same act. And I think there are periods of my life where living here, I like my interest in training juggling goes to almost zero. I just get busy, I get a new hobby, whatever. I'm not in the gym training 3 times a week. And sometimes 3 or 4 months will go by like that where I haven't had any technical upskilling in that period of time. But still I'm juggling every day because I'm going to the show and I'm
Yeah.
warming up and I'm doing that work. And I think if I allowed my temporary lack of interest in training my own juggling to bleed over into becoming a general lack of interest in juggling itself, or a dislike of juggling even, then my life would be miserable because
Yeah.
I'd be going to the show every day, 5 days a week, doing this thing that I don't enjoy. But I think it's important to like not treat all of juggling as one activity. For me, it's broken down into the juggling I do for fun, the juggling I do for work, the exciting stuff that I'm working on that I think has artistic merit, the projects that I'm working on that I think are like, you know, potentially useful in my professional life. And all of those things, the boundaries blur between them all the time. But I think it's important to understand why you're juggling in all of these different categories, and not allow your lack of artistic inspiration to stop you from doing your warm up properly for the show that you have to do 5 days a week. You have to treat those as separate activities.
That's yeah. Oh, I think that's good. You don't notice it when you juggle so often, but you do end up like splitting your motivations, and even in the same session, you can like be super motivated on artistic stuff, but like really non-technical. Or
Mm,
at some point, like last year, I had a really like a pretty dry time in my juggling where like I wouldn't really want to explore artsy stuff, or like getting to push my technique more. I was learning like clubs a bit more because I tend to like just juggle balls. So I was
mm,
learning this new prop, and like I feel like I was hitting a plateau because I was doing okay with five, but going to six was way too hard, and like doing tricks with three and four was like not what I wanted to try. So
totally.
at some point I just went on a natural tangent of like trying balance. So I tried to do like three
Yeah.
clubs with the balance, and that was like, oh, like I'm starting something new, and now I'm feeling the rewarding feeling of juggling again, even though I'm not doing any of the
Yeah.
major ones that I used to do. And technically, it's still technical juggling if you think about it, but still doing something other than like what I was doing technically, like trying the five club tricks and doing my techniques and triples and the six clubs. So
Yeah.
trying the balance was like giving, because I wanted, like, I had motivation to go do them, but then I would feel like I'm not progressing at all because I didn't have really I was hitting a plateau. That's the thing. So I
Totally.
think one day maybe you'll get bored and you'll just try like a whole session of back crosses and get the vibe, and like
Does.
you'll do them for
It's
three
got to come to
months
me at some point.
maybe.
But totally. I mean, I think, again, it depends on maybe how your brain works and what motivates you and what you get out of juggling. But I think a surefire way to kill your passion for juggling altogether is, say, like you're where you were for a while, for 6 months. I've been there too. You're not feeling inspired or excited to make anything that is artistic in inverted commas, or to like be expressive with your juggling. Maybe that's not something that is really driving you at that moment, but you're feeling excited about learning juggling with a balance, or training your seven balls, or whatever it is, like a technical thing that you can just go in and do every day and feel yourself getting better at. I think if you then recognize that and allow yourself to follow your interest in taking a few months to upskill your technique, you're always just having fun with your juggling, and you're having a back and forth dialogue with it and a
Mm,
relationship with it. I think if you then went into the gym and you put extra pressure on yourself to like be artistic, and I need to make a new act, and I've got to make a new sequence, and I've got to double down because I'm not inspired right now. So I need to like, for these 6 months, I need to be doing twice as much time on creating sequences. I don't know. Some that works for some people. It doesn't work for me, and it would just kill it for me altogether. I think you always have to like have a dialogue with yourself and understand what's motivating you at any different time, because we go through so many evolutions in our juggling and why we do it and what it means to us. I think you have to always understand how your relationship with it changes.
absolutely, absolutely. And also I think it transitions well with the question from the previous guest. Um,
Oh, yes.
um, So basically, it was Brian Austin, and Brian Austin wanted
Mm.
to know, what is your motivation in juggling? What keeps you going in juggling?
Oh man, that's a big question. Um, okay, I'm going to try and answer this definitely not concisely, but without rambling too much. I think I think what motivates me about juggling can be broken down into two categories. Well, there are two things, key things that keep me excited about juggling. One is performing. I think to me, ever since I started as a kid, juggling and training and learning juggling and creating juggling has always been tied to performance. And that is what feels like the reason for being for almost all of my training. I'm always creating stuff and improving my technique with the goal of putting it on stage or maybe in a video or something, but usually on stage at some point. And that's a really motivating factor to me because there's something I find really satisfying about like, okay, I can spend 3 months making all of these club tricks, but at the end of the day, how can I take all of that raw technique and crunch it into something that is a more complete artistic statement?
Mm.
Um, and that's really the key motivation of almost all of my juggling. There's very little training that I do in my training sessions that's not directly related to something I could imagine being on stage one day. I have a few tricks that I work on as hobbies that I think I'll never perform, but they feel like hobbies. They're just the little bits of fun that I do in my training session. Like I'm very motivated by composing things for stage and really like completing them. So that's a key motivation. But I think the secondary motivation is just the act of juggling is fun, man. And I think more than anything else, all jugglers can relate to that. Just like if I'm in my apartment and I don't know, taking a break, I'm working on something, sending emails, doing something boring, I'll just like whip out 5 balls and be juggling 5 balls without even thinking about it. It's just a fun activity to do. And I think everyone, and maybe the how much you enjoy that comes and goes throughout your life, but I think all jugglers can relate to just the act of throwing and catching something and doing patterns, doing tricks. That is just a fun thing. And you've always got to hold on to, no matter where else your juggling takes you, just every now and then, just whip out 3 balls, do 4 clubs, whatever. It's just fun. It just feels good. It's good for the brain. It's meditative. It's nice.
I don't know why I relate to like it's so funny. Like it's just so natural. Like you're bored, just give a juggler like 3 balls. Give a juggler 3 clubs.
And they'll be thrown
The
around.
the, the brain is
Dude,
gonna be activated one shot instantly.
yeah. I work for the show I work for here is a variety show called Absinthe. So in that show, I sometimes do a solo act, and sometimes I'm part of a trio. But we're the only jugglers in the show, and everyone else is variety, circus and aerials and whatever. And it was so enlightening. The resident director of that show, this woman who is there watching the show every night and making sure everything is all good, and she runs rehearsals and whatever. She gave this comment last year, just dropped it, and it blew my mind. But she was like, "Man, jugglers enjoy juggling in a way that she doesn't think." This is going to sound like a really general statement, but she was like, "Jugglers enjoy juggling in a way that not many other disciplines enjoy their discipline."
Mm.
And she made that comment because Doug and Noah were like finishing the trio that we do 8 times a week in this show that they have done for many, many years. They finished their juggling for the night for the show, and the show still had 40 minutes to go. So they just go downstairs and they juggle for fun. And the director was like, "This is crazy. Like, no one's like finishing their straps act and then jumping on straps again just for the hell of it, for pure fun, completely like any kind of training that they need to do for their act or whatever." I mean, also with straps, you would like, I don't know, you'd get tired, you'd hurt your shoulders probably. But I think that's such a cool reflection that like I think there is something about juggling, and maybe the kinds of people who get really into juggling too, they just enjoy the act itself of juggling so much. It's so playful, and it's so like it just tickles the good parts of your brain. I think that's something that's really worth remembering because I think not everyone gets to feel that way about the thing that they do.
I love it. Like subconsciously, I feel exactly what you just said. Like when I imagine all the other hobbies that I picked up, even before I was juggling, like I love drawing, but I completely stopped like because it wasn't fun to
Mm,
get to do drawing. Like whenever I had free time, would be pressurizing to do something better than the last time, or like try to be creative and come up with my own ideas and like. But the juggling is just always fun, even though if you just do three balls, there's no cameras, there's no tricks you have to film, there's nothing. Like it's not like you're gonna show it
mm,
to your friends or to anyone. You're just gonna do it, and
mm,
even if it lasts 10 minutes, it's just by your own. I don't know.
mm.
It's just yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Jugglers love
Totally.
juggling. I think juggling loves jugglers too. I think juggling it goes
Whoa,
both ways
that's great. I want that on a t-shirt.
because I think juggling has a lot to offer. Like it's one of the discipline that has like infinite possibilities. Like
Mm,
infinite possibilities when you think about it.
totally.
There's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're never gonna be done juggling and discovering new juggling.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right on that, I think.
Oh wow.
Cool.
I want to slowly conclude the episode on a positive note like that. I think it's a
Mm.
really good conclusion. For the next guest, did you have time to think about a question without knowing who's coming next?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Who's
yeah.
coming next?
Yeah. Okay, so this has been on my mind. In the last year, I've been to a couple of juggling festivals. Like I went to EJC last summer and I was at Turbo, and it was the first time I've been to juggling festivals in a few years, I realized. Um, and it was so exciting and it was so awesome to be surrounded by jugglers again. And it was inspiring and whatever. It was great for a bunch of reasons. And it got me thinking, I was like, man, I think I would like to ask the next guest, how has your relationship with the juggling community changed throughout your life and career? Because I think as time has gone by, I have felt it change. Like the juggling community was such a big part of my life for a while. And then as I moved to becoming more and more of a professional, I maybe felt more connected to the circus community or the variety community or whatever, other people who are doing circus for a living. And now I feel this shift in the last year or so. I feel so excited about the juggling community again. And when I'm thinking about making new stuff, I want to make stuff to perform at juggling conventions. And there's something like I've really reignited an excitement about the community of juggling. And I wonder if other people would follow that pattern or not. I'd never consciously thought about my relationship with the juggling community until the last few months.
That's
So I'd be
yeah.
curious to see what someone else thinks.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
Mm,
So just before we go, do you have any is there
mm.
any subjects that we could talk about just for the last couple of minutes that you wanted to touch on? Do you have any shows you want to promote? Anything particular?
Oh man, not really. I mean, shout out to the boys in Australia. I work with a company called Throw Catch Collective. We make a show called Escalate that we played last year at the European Juggling Convention. And we're kicking into year now to begin working in earnest on our next project this year, which I'm very excited about. Um, and I have no idea when or where it'll premiere, but we had such a good time doing our show Escalate at the EJC that a big goal for this show, much like what I was just saying about the juggling community, our goal for this show is to make it something that we can easily tour to a juggling festival ourselves. Because getting our show Escalate to EJC was a production. That show needs a technician. It kind of needs a
Mm,
tour manager. It's like we had a whole set that we didn't bring. It could just barely get to EJC, and we had such an amazing time there that we were like, okay, whatever we make next, we need to be able to bring with us in a couple of suitcases and play at festivals and offer it to a juggling convention and do it easily in much smaller places because doing it for that kind of community is just so rewarding. Um, so that's something I'm really, really excited about. I'm going to go back to Australia quite a bit this year and work with the guys on making a new full juggling show. Um, so that's exciting.
and in the following weeks, can we see your show in Vegas? Are you still performing?
Oh yeah, man. I'm here. I'm here all summer now. Actually, I come and go from Vegas quite a bit usually, but now it's the end of March, and I'm going to be here till I think the end of August or so, um, doing primarily I've been doing a solo juggling act in this show Absinthe, taking the shows that the trio juggling act that I used to do is not on, which is Water on Mars. So if anyone listening to this is in Vegas at any point, hit me up. We can hang out, we can juggle, come see the show. It'll be great.
I'll put the link down in the description too. And tell me if I'm wrong, but it's the same solo act that you've done at Turbo.
Yeah, I did that act at Turbo. I did it at EJC last year.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot scarier and more stressful to do on a small round stage in the middle of a Spiegel tent. But for real, hit me up before you come because I'm not in every show of Absinthe.
Oh, I
There's
see.
a whole system. Absinthe does like 16 shows a week. So there are 2 casts. Each cast does 8. It's a whole thing. So if you want to see the trio jugglers or if you want to see me or both or neither, make sure you talk to me first and we'll get you to the right show.
Yeah, someone's gonna text you like, when can I not see you? Like, when are you gonna be there so
Yeah.
I don't go?
I hate juggling. I don't want to see any juggling.
No, but I do recommend. You're mesmerizing to see on stage. So I would, if anyone's in the area, like really go see Joe. Like really go see a show.
Oh hell yeah! Thanks, man. That's
So
so kind.
thank you so much for coming to the episode. It was a great conversation. I feel like we could have gone for 2 extra hours. Like,
Oh man, thanks so much for having me. This was such a joy.
yeah, it was awesome. And yeah, everyone go. I'll put the links down in the description. You can go look up Joe on YouTube, on Instagram. I'll put all the socials, and I put the link to Absinthe. But like Joe said, if you want to see
Mm.
Joe perform, probably hit him up to see when he's gonna perform, to not get your hopes down.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah,
everyone
100%.
for watching this far in the episode, and thank you Joe for coming by.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Ciao everyone. Have fun juggling. Bye bye.